Hello, it's Bob on the 25th of June, Wednesday. In this Armed Services Week in Britain, we remember the part played by the military community and all they do to protect UK peace and prosperity. From current troops to service families, veterans and cadets. Linking with that, I was delighted to read this paper with pictures from France, including an elder of our church, Bruce Tyree, taking the salute at St Valery-en-Caux last weekend. This was a poignant and memorable trip for Black Watch veteran Bruce, travelling the length of Britain and crossing the Channel to be part of a remembrance tribute to his old regiment. 10,000 men of the 51st Highland Division were killed or captured 85 years ago in Normandy, cut off with their backs to the sea and surrounded by Rommel's troops and tanks. I wished Bruce good speed and when he left Forfar to visit this attractive little French coastal resort for the first time. I assured him that he'd be welcomed by the French townsfolk as a soldier whose comrades fought and died for their liberty, but also as a Scotsman. The old alliance is still strong, especially in that part of the country. The town is twinned with Inverness. My dad was there in 1940, a young Black Watch corporal, RAMC, tending to his wounded mates and officers in the old convent before the surrender. Then they were force-marched across Europe and destined to be prisoners of war for the next 4 years. Fortunately, he was well treated and in later years often talked of St Valery and even named my sister after the town. He wished he could go back, and so when the opportunity arose in the summer of 1986, I offered to share the driving and motor with him to France with Mum to revisit the town. If you've never been and you consult a map of northern France, you'll find two towns called St Valery. One on the River Somme, scene of that dreadful carnage of 1916 World War I, and the other further west on the River Caux, nestled around a harbour with some fishing boats and a beautiful leisure marina, sheltered from channel storms by huge chalk cliffs, with only a narrow ravine cut by the river as access to the sea. On top of these cliffs, like a sentinel or lighthouse looking over the channel to Britain, is a giant monolith of Aberdeen granite, with HD carved on it, the Highland Division, the marker stone for remembrance. A few miles away on the eastern approaches to the town lies the beautiful British Cemetery, a long, narrow, sloping, tree-lined avenue of green with hundreds of white crosses and headstones of Portland stone in the serried ranks marking the soldiers buried below, with a cross of sacrifice in the centre. Bruce has told me on his return of the effect these two sites had on him and his comrades when the Scottish pipers played the lament. Back in 1986, Dad walked slowly through the stones, reading the inscriptions, alone save for Mum and I a little behind in the quiet, and he stopped to kneel at a particular marker. I went over to help him up, and he told me of this young captain, one of many officers and men he tended to, who died in his arms. All I could say was, "Dad, aren't you glad you came back to St Valery?" He wiped away a tear. The futility of war and the debt we owe to our former servicemen and women. I wish you well from East, Old and Inverarity. Have a good week. Goodbye.